Forget the big chase cards because the sleeper Pokemon cards are what every collector should be focused on. That's why in this video, I'll be looking over the 7 slept on Pokemon cards that everyone should be aware of. See, it's funny because most people think of the big chase cards and they think, oh, it's all about the main grails. But what often gets left behind is that there's actually a lot of expensive cards today that weren't always actually that pricey. For example, right, the stained glass Hidden Fates promo card could have been bought back in 2023 for 10 USD. Now the PSA 10 will cost you well over 300 USD. Or even in recent times, the Greninja promo from Shrouded Fable was like a $9 card last year, and right now it's a $40 card. So knowing that some Pokemon cards can rise in price is really important to know. Though, you know, a word of caution about this, sometimes Pokemon cards can also be manipulated. So a little rule of thumb, if a card's price spikes way too quickly without any reason, just tread very carefully. Because like earlier this year, we saw Brute Bonnet and Drowsy have some massive spikes, then they crashed down heavily. So that's why it's always good to not focus too heavily on hype trains. Though to start this list, in spot number 7, it is the Riolu illustration rare from Scarlet and Violet base. Now this card's pretty interesting because with the new mega set on the way, the new Riolu promo from the ETB is looking okay, but I honestly don't think that the promo touches this original illustration rare from this set. It's interesting because this is from Scarlet and Violet base. Now, how do base sets work? Well, usually, I mean, if we look historically, base sets are kind of your lackluster sets, and they're never meant to be something too extravagant either, because it's kind of like, hey, this is a base set, we're just introducing you to the era. It's almost like a nice soft way to enter an era. Though to be honest, Scarlet and Violet base was quite interesting because when you kind of look over the amazing illustration rare library, it has some really good cards, and this Riolu to me has always been really slept on. When I saw the new promo card, I was kind of thinking, yeah, it's cool, but it kind of doesn't beat what we already have. Now don't forget, I think Lucario is going to get a lot of love with this new mega kind of era that we're entering, because of course Mega Lucario is a pretty loved Pokemon, and you know, it is a really good Pokemon for marketing as well. When we think of Lucario, it's just such a good Pokemon to market to, you know, audiences. Has that real sleek look about it, really cool. It's in the Smash Bros series, there's a lot of love for it, and there's no reason why the pre-evolution won't get a lot of love as well, so this card is definitely slept on. Now, moving on to spot number 6, it is the Ethan's Adventure Special Illustration Rare from Destined Rivals. Destined Rivals is straight up stacked with some insane SIRs, and it seems this card kind of got the spotlight stolen from it, though I really rate this artwork. Here's the thing with Destined Rivals. When all the reveals came out, this was one of the earlier cards that was kind of showcased. Now, everyone looked at this card and said, hey, it does look pretty great. But of course, when you look at Destined Rivals and you look at all the other special illustration rares, this one just took a back seat. You've got Ethan's Ho-Oh, you've got Team Rocket's Mewtwo and Team Rocket's Moltres. I mean, the whole set looks incredible, so this one never kind of got that main spotlight. Even though I don't think this card is like a card that's gonna be crazy expensive one day, or something that's gonna have like some real huge growth, I do think it's an amazing artwork to add to your collection, and I definitely think it's slept on. Destined Rivals to me is easily the best mainline set from the Scarlet and Violet era, and even though some of the specialty sets have been amazing, in terms of mainline sets, I don't think we've had anything as good as Destined Rivals, and of course, when you know how difficult it is to pull Ethan's Adventure, it also makes it a bit more exciting. Destined Rivals has some of the most difficult pull rates for specific special illustration rares, and this one definitely feels a little bit undervalued at this moment. I definitely wouldn't count this one out. Now, moving on to spot number 5, it is the Paldean Fates starter trio line from Paldea Evolved. So Paldea Evolved has a very unique fact, and that is that it has the whole Generation 9 line in illustration rares and special illustration rares. Now, truthfully, I don't think that these cards individually are that great, but I think when you put these as a whole set, it really stands out, especially because it's 9 cards, and a lot of binders fit 9 cards, so it makes a great page. But something that not many people speak about the Scarlet and Violet era is that when you have these storyline illustration rares and special illustration rares, when you actually complete these as a set, that's where they really stand out. And I feel the whole Generation 9 starter trio really takes it to another level. It's funny that it happened so early in the generation, and we didn't even get any cool promos or anything to kind of show more love to the starters. So because of that, they've kind of been trapped in Paldea Evolved, and of course Paldea Evolved does have some reprint rumors happening at the moment, and it is a very beloved set, especially because the Magikarp illustration rare, though I wouldn't count any of these out, and I personally feel they're very slept on at the moment. Also, while we're speaking about these slept on cards, something that you should never sleep on is your skincare, and that's why I'm actually proud to have partnered with Geology to bring you this sponsored video. Now, Geology is a 41-time award-winning skincare, hair, and body brand that has over 10,000 5-star reviews, and they sent me a range of their products, and honestly, they've been pretty great. What I really like about Geology is how beginner-friendly it is. Each product clearly shows you when and how to use it. In the morning, I start with the sensitive face wash, and then I apply the eye cream to refresh the under eye area, followed by the lightweight SPF 15 morning moisturizer. At night, I repeat the face wash and finish with the night cream to keep my skin hydrated while I sleep. And if you want to give these products I mentioned in the video a go, feel free to use my link and code and grab 80% off your personalized skincare trial set, plus you'll get a free gift and up to 50% off add-ons. Trust me, your skin will thank you. All the promo codes and details can be found in the video's description. A massive shout out to Geology for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to the list. Now, moving on to spot number 4, it is the Wiglett illustration rare from Scarlet and Violet base. Now, Scarlet and Violet base has had a great illustration rare roster, and it's kind of funny because it is a base set like I mentioned before. I mean, with the Wiglett, the Riolu, and the Drowsy, that just makes Scarlet and Violet base already an amazing set. It's funny because right now we have so many Pokemon cards that are kind of, obscure or unique, and like even with the Shinji Kanda Seismitoad and how it's had such a big boom in popularity, to me it's kind of interesting that you had Brute Bonnet, you had Drowsy, all these kind of obscure Pokemon get popularity, but this Wiglett never kind of got anywhere. Even as the years have passed in Scarlet and Violet base, this card is still very affordable, and I do think it makes any binder look amazing. And when this era kind of ends, I do think people are going to look back at some of these more obscure cards and have real good things to say about them. So this one's definitely slept on. Now, moving on to spot number 3, it is the Arbok illustration rare from Temporal Forces. Arbok is such a cool Pokemon, so the fact that it still is super attainable to me is quite interesting. Though, Temporal Forces as a whole, I feel has very undervalued cards. Something that's kind of happened with, Temporal Forces as a whole is because there's been so many sets that came after it, and you had so many chase cards, Temporal Forces to me is very underrated. I always speak about Temporal Forces in a pretty high regard, and the reason I speak about it in such a high regard is because I do feel it is a very Generation 9 set, and it doesn't really draw on anything into huge nostalgia to kind of make it an interesting set. It really relies on Pokemon that were introduced in Generation 9. Now, the Arbok is interesting because you do get a Generation 1 Pokemon, but when you do look at the whole set, and when you look at all the special illustration rares, they are all Generation 9 Pokemon. I think at the moment, the Arbok is very undervalued, but really, like I said, if you look at all of Temporal Forces, I do think some of these cards from Temporal Forces, especially the illustration rares, will rise eventually because they have been slept on for such a long time. Now, moving on to number 2, it is the Tinkaton EX special illustration rare from Paldea Evolved. So it's funny because every once in a while, you get a Pokemon which you kind of feel should have been more popular. Now, I'm not talking just about in the TCG, I'm just talking about the whole fan adoption thing. And Tinkaton, along with the whole evolution line, feel like they never caught on, but it's almost like Pokemon really thought they would. It's kind of weird, right? Because when Pokemon creates a new Pokemon, you always have this feeling that they kind of anticipate it to do well. And there's been some Pokemon that have just performed so amazing. I'm talking about in terms of the franchise and how popular they are. Like Lucario, that was just adopted by so many people. Same with Greninja. So many people got obsessed with Greninja. But then you have others that you felt like Pokemon thought they would have done better. Like Zeraora is one of these. I kind of feel like they thought it would be the next Lucario and it never caught on. And Terapagos is another one of these. It kind of feels like they thought it would be this huge mythical Pokemon, but again, it never really caught on. And the whole Tinkaton line to me feels like that as well. They're really cute Pokemon. They have this kind of weird aggression. It does feel like there would be a big fan base for these, but for some reason, they never caught on. And this special illustration rare, along with the whole line, to me is great. And again, it's another card from Paldea Evolved. Though this one in particular, I feel is super slept on, and it's a great one to add to any collection. Also, I wanted to say, if you are looking to connect with the broader Pokemon community, a great resource is my channel's official Discord server. You can ask questions and connect with over 9,500 5,000 members. The server invite is in the video's description. And honestly, for the most slept on card at the moment, it is the Excadrill Special Illustration Rare from Black Bolt. Now, Black Bolt has a huge amount of hype for the set, and it's definitely the preferred set from the new Generation 5 sets, though this classic Gen 5 Pokemon is an awesome card. So, you know, Excadrill was a Pokemon that really suffered with the transition to the 3D model, and I feel Excadrill is actually such a cooler Pokemon than the newer games have portrayed it. When looking at its classic sprite design, it looks so awesome, and this special illustration rare has kind of brought me back to how cool Excadrill was. You know, a lot of these special illustration rares can get overshadowed by, you know, bigger and cooler Pokemon, and of course you've got the monochromatic cards that took so much spotlight, the red Victini, and of course all the other cards within Black Bolt. Though real talk, I really like this artwork, and you know, while these Pokemon cards are slept on, I also know that some of the ones that I mentioned today are pretty pricey. However, if you do want to know 10 underrated Pokemon cards which are currently under 5 USD, you can see that in this video right here. Within this video that's currently appearing on screen, you can actually go through the top 10 Pokemon cards at the moment under $5. Also, once again, a big shout out to Geology for partnering with me on today's video. You can find all the details in the description, and I'll see you on the next video.